Heard Mr. Rokita.
I thank the Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for joining us again. Several questions to go through with you. In my role as a subcommittee chairman here, I visited some tribal communities recently. And a lot of the jurisdiction there belongs, of course, to the Department of the Interior. But in terms of school structures and some other things, I think there's some small pieces that you, in fact, have. One concern that I saw was that one tribe in particular was afraid, quite literally, to invest in new school buildings and even T1 lines. We talk about technology and accessibility, for fear that the government would then come back and say, oh, well, see, you got that done, however you got it done, bonding or whatever, and therefore we don't need to do it. And of course, promises have been made going back a very long time, and promises need to be kept. Can you quickly comment on that, and would you join me in an effort to either write your boss or write the Department of Interior to help solve this?
No, absolutely. And I want to be very, very clear that as we talk about inequities and disparities, no one has been more poorly served than our Native children. Any measure of gaps, achievement gaps, opportunity gaps, the worst of the worst in terms of outcomes are in the Native community. So
I appreciate that. Could you help me solve this?
So I'll help on that one. Be clear, while the Department of Interior has much of this, I want you to know I've put one of my top deputies there full-time to try and help them figure out a better way to educate children. So we're all working on this together.
Thank you for that. That's not the same guy that's supposed to be responding to our letters, is it?
No comment.
I used to run 5 agencies as well. I'm just,
no,
if I have time, I'll get back to that.
That was on me. That's my fault.
No. And you know what? That's a strong mark of character, quite frankly. I want to say that for a record. I was in a meeting earlier this morning where apology could have been made, apology wasn't given, and I think it goes to character, I think it goes to leadership, and I appreciate you saying that. More specifically, I'd like to work with you to make sure that you say the responses will be more timely. I'd like to know what that is, what you're going to do to correct whatever situation you clearly have going on inside your office, so that we can have on both sides a reasonable expectation about what reasonable response means.
What I'll do very quickly is just come back to the chairman and give him a time frame, and he will not be shy about holding me accountable to sticking to that time.
Thank you. Moving on to Washington State, noting that no one from that state is represented here on this committee, and again, in my role as a subcommittee chairman, and the chairman talked a little bit about this as well. I'm concerned about the waiver being revoked. I get it. I understand accountability. You and I agree on that. However, if evaluations of these teachers were performed, what would the specific measurable outcome be? What should we expect as federal policymakers from this?
And again, we're trying to leave tremendous discretion. Every other state so far has figured this out, so there's no one way to do this, and we're trying to provide maximum flexibility. At the end of the day, what I believe, and which I think you believe, is that the goal of teaching is not to teach. The goal of teaching is to have children learn. And a piece, not the whole thing, but a piece of teacher evaluation should be based upon student learning. That's the simple request. That's the commitment that Washington State gave. And unfortunately, to date, they haven't fulfilled that. Again, they could come back tomorrow and fulfill that. But all we're saying is that we think teaching is hugely important.
Yes,
we think great teachers make a huge difference in students'
And
lives.
having been there like you've been there and talking to parents and teachers and community leaders, surely they care. Surely they understand the frustration and issues. And I agree that schools must exist for the students. They don't exist for the adults. And I think what you're trying to do serves that purpose. Would you also, though, acknowledge that no person, no staffer, no bureaucrat in your department knows the children of Washington State better than the parents and teachers and taxpayers of Washington State?
Of course. This is a big country, 100,000 schools, 15,000 school districts.
So on gainful employment, you believe that the public education system should be subject to that same rule?
Well, again, I want to be clear. We're working on gainful employment regs. We're also working on a college rating system. And those are the two pieces of work that we're engaged on now.
But Purdue and IU should be subject to both those, just like ITT.
I don't know all the details there, so let me come back to you on that one.